unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
What's up, everybody? This is Hater Radio. My name is Chris McLean. As always, I'm here with my co-host, Ian Gibson. How are you?
I'm doing really good.
Hey, so it's Week 11 preview show, but we wanted to talk about first because last night was the CFP rankings, and it's the initial one of the year. So not a ton to really talk about as far as controversy so far. The 1 through 12 are Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, BYU, Texas Tech, Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma. The thing that probably stands out the most is the fact that the group of 5 teams did not make the top 25, even though there are some good candidates this year. Memphis, obviously, North Texas right now. USF, even with 2 losses, looks, still really good with wins against Florida and Boise State. Then you have Navy with only 1 loss to North Texas. So you've got a lot of teams, especially in the American, even San Diego State. I know we've talked about before. Ian has broke down their games and stuff. Yeah. So definitely a lot to talk about. But Ian, anything that stands out to you that group of 5 wise, what do you think? Do you think that a group of 5 team deserves to be in that top 25 right now?
Absolutely. I was texting George yesterday. I said, I cannot believe they don't have a single group of 5 team in there, whether it be Boise State, UNLV, Memphis, Tulane, USF. You mean to tell me, and this is the one that really annoyed me, is how Tennessee got in at 25 with a 6-3 record, skating by a lot of these wins. I mean, they lost by 3 to Georgia, Bama, and Oklahoma, but they went down to the wire to Mississippi State, Arkansas, teams that they are better than, and they got in the 25 spot with 3 losses. Meanwhile, Memphis, yes, they got upset against UAB, but I don't see how you could legitimately tell them, no, you're not in the top 25, or same with Tulane or USF, how they are not in the top 25. And I get strength of schedule is very important, but I still don't think you would put teams like Tennessee up there. I also thought it was surprising that a 1 loss to Georgia Tech, they got upset by NC State, is all the way down at 17. And same thing with Vandy at 16, with their only 2 losses were to Bama and Texas. Yeah, there were some interesting decisions, I will say. 1 through 10, I was pretty okay with. I'm not so cool about Notre Dame at 10, to be honest, because that Miami loss is looking worse. But other than that, the one sticking point was I did not see Memphis, Tulane, any group of 5 team in the top 25, and hopefully that'll change soon, because as it stands, you would legitimately have a non-ranked team in the playoff, because they would be the highest, I guess, voted champion at that point would be like Memphis or Tulane or USF, and they wouldn't even be in the top 25 right now.
Yeah, I mean, it really kind of hinders these group of 5 teams. It's still, top 5 conference qualify. So top 5 teams in the conferences qualify. So because one of these American teams will qualify as the 12 teams in the playoff, it would be Memphis far right now. So they're not in the top 25, but they're still in the ballpark because of that qualifier. I feel like it's going to be an American team just because the quality is there between those 4 teams. Was it 4 or 5? It's Tulane, Memphis, North Texas, 5. And so one of them will survive. There will be one that has 1 or 2 losses, and I'm hoping it's USF. That's our, you're wearing the jersey today. Obviously, we're on that train, but I don't like the Georgia Tech moving down so greatly. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, yes, it was a bad loss, but I don't know. They won't move SEC teams far, but any other team that loses to like someone that is not as up to snuff. But I still feel like NC State is a good team. I just don't think many people know how good they are. Bailey is a good quarterback,
Yeah.
and they beat UVA as well. So like they clearly are a decent team, but for whatever reason, people don't know about them because they haven't beaten like a ton of good teams outside of those games between UVA and Georgia Tech. But NC State plays Miami and Florida State in the next couple of weeks, so they'll get a shot at really showing who they are, and maybe the committee will realize, all right, we made a mistake with Tech. But it also will help if Tech can win these games going forward. You know, I don't know. I don't think I'm like that upset with things though, because like I think people are where they are. I mean, there's a lot of 2-loss teams. I think you're right. I think Tennessee at 6-3 does not deserve to be there when there's plenty of other teams with 2 losses or 1 loss that deserve to be there. Like you couldn't think of one team that is better than them. That's kind of ridiculous. As far as the top goes, I think those 4, 5, 6 teams are really strong. And then we have BYU playing Texas Tech this week, so we'll get an eliminator there.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that's it for either of these teams because they may end up playing each other in the Big 12 championship game somehow, especially if Texas Tech wins. So interesting developments there. But, it's just this committee, it's viewership for ESPN and talking points because it'll be on their Get Up show. It'll be on their First Take show. It'll be on Paul Feinbaum. It gives them something to talk about. And we're talking about here just because, we do college football. And, the biggest thing we do is, essentially looking at every week the best teams that have possible playoff chances. That's essentially what the rundown is every week. We try to highlight the teams that we think will be up there and the games that matter the most. And, this is a look at that, but at the same time, it doesn't mean anything because the only one that matters is that last week in December or that first week in December when they pick the choices for the playoffs. So it is, just superficial at this point. This is not something that's going to be lasting because next week it's going to change greatly because of these teams that lose, Oregon could lose and get completely knocked out of the playoff. So we don't know. But it's a good snapshot, but it's not definitive of what's going to happen. And I wish they wouldn't even do this. Honestly, I don't find the substance to this because it essentially locks them into narratives that they can't get out of. So if they try to portray oh, well, we have this team here because of blah, blah, blah. And then if it comes to 2 weeks later and then that team loses or, there's a head-to-head situation where you have to vote. And it's then they kind of screw themselves because then it's because you don't see college basketball do this. They don't release rankings. I think they have there is a rating system. I know there's Ken Palm, and then there's another rating system that the selection committee goes off of, but they don't release here are 68 teams, and there's no need to do that. I really honestly don't find the benefit of doing this. I really don't. I know we're talking about it now, but come next week, I'm probably not going to talk about it. I only really mentioned it because it was it's the initial ranking, so I'm curious as to what they saw, but I don't really take this for much weight. Okay, with that in mind, let's move on to the Week 11 preview. Ian, the first game we have is the Thursday night UTSA USF game. Are you going to this?
I don't know yet. I will definitely try to.
We get, our content, our biggest hits come from our live stuff. So, like, please go. If you can, it helps us. It helps the brand immensely because, like, the one videos you did of the fat guy touchdown and then showing the scoreboard at North Texas, it got, like, between all of the, like, social media formats, it was, like, close to 10,000 views between those two videos. So, like, it does work. People want to see that stuff. And trust me, if I had more money this year, I would have gone to a lot more games, but production work is slow. And, you know, I've just been kind of laying low as far as like going to any of these games. I am going to go to that USC UCLA game, but that's about it. I don't have plans to go to any other game in the next several weeks. So, and it stinks because there's a USC Oregon game that if both of them win this week is going to be huge. And I would love to go to a game like that because I've been wanting to go to Oregon and to Eugene and see that campus and that stadium for a long time. I just have not been able to pull the trigger. And hopefully it's next year. I don't know. We'll see. But back to this game. So, you know, I definitely feel like that UTSA win on Friday against Tulane really kind of changed the calculus a lot because they got smoked previously before that by North Texas 55-17. And I'm like, oh, you really can't do transitive property, but it's, I guess, just using the comparison because they looked really bad in that North Texas game. Like McCown only had 84 yards passing. You know, their running back Henry had a pretty decent game, but Mestamaker went off. Paul had a good game. So North Texas really kind of controlled that game. And it was a -3 turnover margin, which again, North Texas is huge on that. They're number one in turnover margin right now. That's how they've won almost all their games. And why they lost that game against USF is because they lost the turnover margin. But no, USF coming off that loss to Memphis, you know, this is going to be a tough game. It's a short week for UTSA. USF is coming off a bye after that loss to Memphis, so they've got a chance to like lick their wounds and get ready for this. It kind of works out in their favor because they had the bye week, they have a short week, and then they get like, I think their game against Navy is a Saturday, and so they get like an extended break there. So they're getting like, you know, basically kind of almost 2 bye weeks in one, which, hey, it worked out that way. And, you know, it may help them with like injuries and getting people healthy for games. So, but I don't know. Byron Brown needs to have a good game. Honestly, I feel like he is the engine that makes this offense go. I have not seen if Schuler is hurt still or not. Did you see anything? I know we talked about it.
I have not seen anything yet. No.
I'm going to look it up right now, but give me your thoughts on this game, Ian.
So obviously, like you said, this game's trajectory changed once UTSA just completely ran up the score against Tulane, and now they're going on the road to USF. And USF, it's going to be, you know, interesting because it's going to either fill in the notion of like, oh, too much rust, and UTSA is more ready because they had a big game against the top conference opponent last week at home, and they blew them out. And now they're going to be on the road here against USF, who is still a top conference opponent. I think the key for USF, obviously the offense and Byron Brown needs to be clicking at a consistent level. They cannot be having too many inconsistent and 3-and-out drives like they did against Memphis in the second half and play a full 4 quarters. But especially defensively, after how bad they looked in that second half, where Memphis crossed the 50-yard line every drive and scored in all but one, and that was a missed field goal the only time they didn't score, the defense has got to step up. And obviously UTSA is going to be throwing a lot of weapons at them with McCown at quarterback. Rushing the ball, they are very good against the run, but obviously passing, they were carved up last week. Obviously, whether Schuler is healthy or not is going to be a deciding factor in that. I feel like, though, it's going to be interesting because Mestamaker, they did a really good job containing him and having those adjustments in the second half. With McCown, it's going to be kind of a similar thing. The key is to not have UTSA have their balanced attack that they usually do. They have to either eliminate the run or the pass. They cannot be giving up an average of 5-6 yards per carry or per play, because the USF is in deep trouble. They need to find a way to get the Roadrunners off the field and make sure they have the ball as much as possible. I feel like in this game, I mean, obviously UTSA after last week, they're going to be riding an emotional high, but USF has got to mentally prepare for everything being thrown at them. They have got to play perfect. They kind of have a bit of a, gift from an angel right now, because if they win out, they're in a very good spot of making the conference championship still. So now they have to play better than perfect now, because any slip up, and once again, another chance at, getting the first conference championship is out the window. I feel like in this game, UTSA, it's going to be close and going into halftime, but USF finds a way in the third and fourth quarter, kind of pulls the reverse of what they did at Memphis, and finds a way to sneak a win out. I think the Bulls win a close one. I'm going to go with a 38-30 win for USF.
Yeah, and I'm on along the same lines, where I feel like UTSA is probably going to score points, and I feel like the defense is going to struggle a little bit, and which is not great, but I feel like the offense is good enough to score more points than Tulane did last week. I think Retzlaff, at times I'm like a fan of his, and then other times I'm like, I don't know. I just don't think he's as strong of a quarterback as he probably was last year with BYU. But I feel like now it seems like more that BYU was probably a stronger team than Retzlaff, his talent level was. So, like, I think the team elevated him and not him elevating the team. And that's where I think him at Tulane, he's good, but he's not like to that level of what BYU was last year. And it's clearly because BYU is still really good this year. So I think that Tulane team struggled last week to really put an offensive performance together against this UTSA defense, which gave up 55 points the week previous to North Texas. So I think South Florida is at least able to score 35 plus. So I'm thinking along the same lines as you. I'm going to say 42 to like 28, and maybe USF gets that late touchdown to go up 2 scores, and that it's actually a closer game into the fourth quarter. I don't want it to be, but I don't know. This UTSA team is obviously strong enough to move the ball, and I think they'll be able to do some of it, not a ton. Is this the first time UTSA is coming to Tampa?
Yes.
That's what I thought, because they've played their other games in San Antonio. So, like, this feels like the first time that I remember them ever being in Ray J. So,
yeah,
it should be interesting, to say the least. And I hope that the fans show up. Like, y'all in Tampa and the Bay Area, please show up to this game. Like, this is a huge game. Like, if we can get to the Navy game with 2 losses, the Navy game becomes like the immensely important. Like, it becomes essentially the game. Like, they'll still have UAB and Rice, but like, really, it's the Navy game. So gotta win this game and give themselves a chance to try to win that Navy game. And man, I like that. Now that Memphis was the biggest game in the history of the program, the Navy game, if they win this UTSA game, becomes the biggest game in program history. And it's just, that's what happens when you're a young program and you're still building.
Yeah.
You have those games like this where it's like you're building and building, so like in the same season almost. So we'll see. Okay, moving on. We've got Northwestern USC here in LA. I'm not going to go to this game. I want to, but again, I am not doing well financially, so I cannot afford even a metro trip and a like $5 ticket, because I'm sure I could find a $5 ticket if I wanted to. It's more of like the spending the money on food and whatnot and all that. Because I have friends that are tailgating. Our friend Jess, she's tailgating with her sister Monica, and like all those gals that are USC fans. And like, I could go and they probably have plenty of food I could eat off of. But you still got to eat in the stadium and drink stuff. So it's like, I don't know. I'm just trying to save money as much as I can right now, just because I'm not working. And then I actually will start working at the end of Thanksgiving or end of November. So hopefully I'll be back to work soon, and then hopefully this stuff will be behind me. But it's been brutal. I worked on Fallout for several months, and then since then I've barely worked since then. That was April, so
yeah.
Wow. So, but anyways, this game, Northwestern, they lost to Nebraska 28-21, Northwestern. Stone, that's the same Stone that was at SMU, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and he's okay, but this Northwestern team is not very talented. There's not a ton of speedsters or position players that are lighting the world on fire. So he's about the only thing they have. And, in that game against Nebraska, he threw 2 interceptions. That Nebraska team is different now because they lost Raiola, and we'll talk about that later. But they did beat Penn State, dealing with injuries with Alar out for the year. Their quarterback in that game, actually it was Alar. Alar got hurt in that game. So that's where, and it was after that, that's when James Franklin got fired. So, I don't know. The Northwestern doesn't scare me as far as USC. I feel like, USC should be able to put up points. They have struggled the last 2 weeks. They only scored 24 to Notre Dame and 21 to Nebraska. So they've been limited, but I don't see Northwestern scoring more than 14 points on this team. And if that's the case, USC, all they need to score is like 20, 24, and I think that's what it's going to be. Maeva struggled in that game against Nebraska. He used his legs a lot. He struggled against Notre Dame, had 2 interceptions there, so 3 interceptions last 2 games. Not a good look. King Miller looked good for USC last week, 129 yards on the ground. Again, Raiola got hurt in that game, so it kind of lended itself to USC being able to coast to that win. But I don't know. I just feel like USC is the better team in this game. I'm going to say USC wins let's say 27-14. What do you got?
I think it's interesting to note, too, that Northwestern, of all the teams in the Big Ten, it's only 1 win from bowl eligibility. They have, until the Nebraska game, they were on their win streak. But I think the big thing to note is that all their wins were coming against kind of lower-tier Big Ten offenses.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, at the time, UCLA was in a tailspin. And then they beat State, which was a mess. Purdue, obviously, hasn't been as effective offensively. But now you're playing number 1 offense in the Big Ten. And kind of similarly, Oregon, the number 3 offense right now in the Big Ten, definitely had a comfortable win against Northwestern. I think it's going to be the same way because Northwestern's defense has actually been pretty good. They're top 5 in the Big Ten in total defense. But I don't see them having too much trouble in this one. I'm going to go Trojans winning with like a 35-17 win.
Okay, next game we have on Friday is Tulane-Memphis. Ian's G5 game of the week, y'all. So, Ian, G5 Gibson, give us your breakdown.
So, obviously, both of these teams are coming off different kind of emotional games. Memphis, obviously, after the big win against USF and then beating Rice on Halloween. And then for Tulane, that upset blowout against UTSA. I think the big thing here is how well is Tulane going to be able to respond and try to have a more balanced attack against Memphis, because both of these teams are kind of been relying on the quarterbacks, but I really feel more comfortable right now with Memphis's offense, honestly, in this game, because Tulane was kind of playing with fire with the games against Army, Eastern Carolina, And really, Memphis's closest win was USF, which is obviously one of the best teams in the conference. And yeah, they beat Arkansas, and we're kind of having some closer games as well. But besides the UAB loss, they beat USF, and then they blew out Rice, and now they're back home. I kind of like Memphis in this one, but the one thing is that it's very scary having to face a team that just came off an upset, because I feel like Tulane's going to give everything they have and more, because obviously these are their conference championship lives right now, because I think this is an eliminator game. Whoever loses this is pretty much out of the race.
Yeah.
So,
it's a tough one.
I'm going to take Memphis on this one for the fact that I feel like they've been in this situation before with USF and they can find a way to win. And I don't feel like they're going to be, kind of similar to what I hope USF does. After that loss to UAB, they woke up. And obviously Tulane is in survival mode, so they're going to throw everything. Obviously, this is one of those games where it can easily go the other way, but I think it might come down to another field goal. But I think the Tigers pull it off. I'm going to go with a 31-28 win for Memphis.
Yeah, I mean, Lewis really impressed me in that USF win. Like, he's, fully capable of, orchestrating the offense to get points, especially against a good opponent. And he was kind of hurt in that UAB game. So, I don't really, look at that UAB game as, the tell-all. I look more as that USF game makes more of a telling story of what this Memphis team is. And I think that game showed that they are capable of beating anybody. And I think Tulane, I think that loss against UTSA might be a wake-up call, but it also might be a warning that they may not be ready for this stuff, because if Retzlaff's ceiling is essentially the Duke win, his floor is that UTSA loss. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like Lewis's ceiling and Lewis, I think, plays at a higher level than Retzlaff right now. And I think he's more of a athletic fit for Memphis, and he can do more. And I think Retzlaff, I don't know. I don't think he's going to have a good enough game in this one. I think Memphis wins this one. I'm going to say Memphis wins probably 31-28, and maybe Tulane has the ball late and Retzlaff throws an interception and Memphis wins it, holds on to win. Okay, moving on to the Saturday games. We've got Georgia, Mississippi State. Georgia coming off that win against Florida, 34-20. They also had beaten Ole Miss 43-35, so they've got a couple of good games the last couple of weeks. Sorry, not 34-20 to Florida, 24-20. It's a typo on my end. Then Mississippi State, they beat Arkansas 38-35. And then the week previously, they lost to Texas 45-38. So these two teams come into this game kind of firing on all cylinders on offense for the most part. And I think Mississippi State's defense is struggling pretty badly. So I think they're going to still give up some points to Georgia. I know I saw Georgia accounts saying oh, this is going to be a hard game. And it probably will be. I think Mississippi State is going to give them a game for at least I'd say at least into the third quarter. But Georgia's probably going to run the ball a decent amount and have some success. Arkansas had some success on the ground, and so did Texas. Well, actually, no, Texas had more of a passing attack. So maybe it's a game that Stockton goes off on, and maybe Stockton puts up 300 yards on this Mississippi State defense, which I think you can have them. I mean, even Florida was able to move the ball against Mississippi State, and their offense is in disarray. So I think Georgia wins this one. I think it's going to be like a 10-point game. I'm going to say like a 34-24 game. What do you got?
So of Mississippi State's 4 losses, 3 of them have been by 1 possession. Meanwhile, Georgia, with their kind of similarly playing with fire as well, of their wins, I believe it was 3 have been by 1 score, and 4 have been by only 10 points or less. So clearly these teams, Mississippi State punching well above their weight, and Georgia kind of playing down to teams that they are just better than, with Auburn, and they are better than Florida. I'm sorry. And that game was getting way too close for comfort. I'm sure of that for them. But I feel like in this game, it's going to kind of be a similar thing that we've seen all year with both of these teams. Maybe Mississippi State gets out to a lead. Georgia finds a way to win in the end. I either be stocked in the run game. That's the thing, is I don't really trust Mississippi State's secondary right now. It's been, kind of exposed with Tennessee, with Texas, and then, Florida did get some big plays on them too. So I'm going to go with Bulldogs another comeback win. I'll go with like a 34-27 win for Georgia.
Nice. Okay, let's move on to BYU, Texas. This is my game of the week. Not that, G5 is not up to that standard. I'm just looking at it as like, I like both of these teams. I've been like talking about them all year. Like I've been talking about BYU since last year. You know that, Ian. I've been like always on that train. And I feel like I hope that both these two teams can recover from this game and that they can keep moving further on. I hope this isn't it for either one. So I'm kind of hoping that Texas Tech wins so that we can see this sequel in Dallas or wherever the Big 12 championship game is. And, I would love to see a sequel because, you know what, these two teams are really good. And I want to see, because then that also means if it's a sequel that they both have 1 loss going into Big 12 championship games, there's a chance that both of them can get in the playoff, which that's what I really want to see, because I want to see both these teams in. Like, I think these are the 2 best teams in the Big 12, and I would love to see them both play for against other teams from the other conferences. So in this game, Texas Tech, I don't know. I mean, they're kind of like all over the place because Morton was hurt for a couple weeks. Then Hammond came in, and then Hammond got hurt, and he's out for the year now. Now Morton's back, and Morton looked good last week against Oklahoma State. And it seems like they're on track, but it's like if Morton gets hurt, they don't have a backup. They'd be playing their 3rd string, so they're kind of in a tricky situation. Then you have BYU with Bear Bachmeier just, kicking butt and taking names. He threw for 307 yards against Iowa State. They beat Iowa State 41-27 in kind of a closer game than that score shows. They beat Utah in a super close game that was down to the wire. I think this BYU team, I think they can win on the road in Lubbock, but it's going to be a monster effort. And I hate that this game is at noon. Why do you keep doing this to us, Big Ten and the big noon bull crap? I'm tired of it. Like, give us good games at prime time slots. Like, we don't need these noon games that don't do anything. Like, I know that like Ohio State and Michigan get viewers. That's because there's nothing else to do in those states. So of course people are going to watch those games. But if you come to like the South wants primetime games. They want games at night because it's way more fun. There's way more atmosphere, and you do those noon games, and it's such a I don't know, because this game is at 11 a.m. Central. Like, that's so early. I mean, those players got to be up at 5 in the morning to get ready for that game. It's just brutal. But back to the game, I think Bachmeier is going to have a good game, but I feel like this Texas Tech team is a machine. They put up a ton of yards on the ground, through the air. They're explosive plays. Talked about it on Sunday. Dickey is a tremendous back. Caleb Douglas, I know you've talked about him, former Florida Gator. They've got a bevy of wide receivers that they go to. Tyson, no, not Tyson. That's ASU. They had who else? Eakin, Virgil. They've got a bunch of guys that can put up numbers, and their defense is strong. Their defense in most of their games is a positive turnover margin. Only really that loss to ASU was it negative, and I feel like Texas Tech's going to win this game. I'm going to say Texas Tech wins. It's going to be close. I'm going to say 27-24, and maybe Morton leaves a drive at the end to get a touchdown to win it, type thing. What do you got, Ian?
It's interesting to note with this game for the BYU program, this is the first time where they will be playing a team in the top 10 while they are also in the top 10. Even their 1984 national championship run, that didn't happen at all. Because when they beat Pitt, no, they have never played a team while they were in the top 10 and playing a team also in the top 10. Because in 1984, when they beat Pitt to open the year, I think they were 25th or even unranked. So that was the closest it got. And they did beat Miami in 1990 when Miami was number 1. Anyways, just something I noticed when doing the homework on this, because I have no life. With Texas Tech, this game, I feel like there's more pressure on Tech than there is BYU. Clearly, this is a huge game. And I'm not saying, kind of similar to what Nick Saban quoted a long time ago, there's no such thing as you should lose a game or feel comfortable losing. But you got to feel like if BYU drops this, they're still in the driver's seat because of that one loss. For Tech, if they lose, Cincinnati and Utah will not Utah, but Cincinnati would jump them in the standings. And BYU, if they lose, they would still at least be in second place. Or actually, they would be in second place. For Tech, I feel like, agree with you, they're going to throw everything they have at BYU. And I like the fact, again, we don't talk about the defense enough with Tech. They have the number 1 defense in the Big 12. And with the exception of that, loss to Arizona State, and even then, they only gave up 26. They didn't give up 30. I feel very comfortable with Tech's defense. I don't even think, I think that was the most points that a team has scored on Tech was 26 in that loss to Arizona State. So the defense has been doing its job. I feel like it will do the job again against BYU. I think this is going to be a close one, but I like the Red Raiders in this one. I'm going to go with a 30-23 win for Tech.
30-23?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to – we're going to do this one quickly. Indiana, Penn State. Not much to talk about here because Alar is hurt. I know that Indiana is going to smoke them. I didn't really want to focus on this game. Indiana, their 2 biggest wins, they beat Oregon 30-20, and they beat Iowa 20-15, both on the road. This game is, I think it's in Indiana, right?
No, I think it's in Happy Valley.
It's in Happy Valley. So they've had 3 really tough road games, but this is kind of not a tough road game because they fired their coach, Penn State, and now they have lost their quarterback for the year, and Drew Alar. So this lends itself to Indiana really kind of blowing them out. I don't have a doubt that this game is going to be a 55-plus game or something. So it's a shame because it looked like a big game coming into the year, and now it's going to be kind of nothing. So I expect Mendoza to have a good game, Surratt to probably have a good game, Hemby to have a good game, the defense to do well, to force what's the quarterback for Penn State now? Something
Grotmeyer or something.
I don't know. It's some different name, but he struggled. He hasn't put up a ton of yards in these games that he's come in for Alar. So I don't expect Penn State to have a good game, and I expect Indiana to really kind of put it to them. And so I'm going to say Indiana wins 52-7. What do you got?
when doing the homework on this is kind of crazy. Now, credit, they didn't play each other a lot because it was, Big Ten West and Big Ten East. But even then, when they were in the Big Ten, it's kind of insane. Indiana only has 2 wins on Penn State in their entire history. Credit, it's not like a team that they played 100 plus years, but it's like 27 something total meetings. And Indiana only has 2, and their only 2 wins were in Bloomington, Indiana. And the last one was the insane when Penix was at Indiana and he scored during the COVID year.
Yeah.
So this game, obviously, Penn State's got that going for them. They have history on their side. They've never lost to the Hoosiers in Happy Valley. But, I mean, if we've known anything with Indiana this year is that they have broken every notion that the history books have told us what we should think of Indiana football. I think they'll go in and take care of business, and I think the Hoosiers win running away. I'll go with let's do 38-17 win for Indiana.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to Oregon, Iowa. This should be a much more compelling game. I want to hear your thoughts on this game before I give mine. Go ahead.
I mean, Iowa, we were kind of leaving for dead, especially earlier in the year. So to have them have the run they were on, they were pretty much the toughest opponent that Indiana's faced so far. Ironically, was that 20-15 loss they had to Indiana. But then they shut out Wisconsin. Obviously, they beat Penn State by 1 point and then blew out Minnesota. Now it gets tougher playing Oregon and USC. They still haven't had a ranked win. They lost to Iowa State this year. And the offense, minus the Minnesota game, needs to become more consistent in how it's been, not having as many 3-and-outs. And I think field position-wise is going to be very important for Iowa, where they start. So that's going to rely on the defense and how well the defense does against Oregon. The tough thing is that Oregon, obviously, one of the elite offenses in the country, top 10 in the country and top 3 in the Big Ten. And with that, I feel like Oregon's defense is also in the top 3. But, Iowa, I think, is 2 in the Big Ten, and Oregon's right behind them. So I feel like this might be a defensive struggle, but I feel more comfortable with having, Oregon's offense, especially having improved themselves. I'm going to go with I like Dante Moore on this one. I'm going to go with let's do 28-14 win for the Ducks.
Yeah, and Iowa's still right at the top of the standings in the Big Ten. They're 4th right now, behind only Michigan, Ohio State, and Indiana. Which is funny because Oregon is technically behind them. USC is behind them. I don't love this Iowa team. Their offense has always been stuck in the mud. Gronowski is capable of some things, but he's not that great. The only game I've really seen out of him that kind of impressed me was the Rutgers game, and they came from behind in that one and won that one. Besides that, he didn't really have a good game against Indiana. He got hurt in that one too, so the backup came in. They did beat Penn State, but Penn State was without Drew Allar, so I don't know how much weight you put behind that. As far as Oregon, I'm still a huge fan of Dante, like you said. Dante Moore puts up numbers. They had that real, at the time it was a good win against Penn State. Penn State is falling apart, but Penn State was still considered a viable team at that point. They hadn't fired their coach, and Drew Allar was still healthy at that point. Their loss to Indiana is a tough one because it was a home game, but this Indiana team is pretty much a machine at this point. And Surratt went off in that game. They did have a pick 6 that went their way, but I don't know. I think if they can, win the turnover margin and, force Gronowski to, basically nothing, which I think they can, then Dante Moore, if he has a decent game, throws 200 yards plus, I think they easily win this one. I'm going to favor Oregon. I'm going to say Oregon wins 28-17. Okay, next game we've got a couple of these are kind of easier ones to pick, and they're not going to be a ton to talk about. That's why I didn't really do a ton of research on these. I didn't have as much time, so I'm sorry for that. But Texas A&M, Missouri, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, class of SEC's Big 12 exodus of 2012 here, Missouri and A&M. Obviously, I mean, we talked about battered bull syndrome. There's a meme of battered Aggie syndrome. This is kind of the textbook trap game that the Aggies have had. With this one, Missouri, they're coming off that loss to Vandy, and now they have their bye week. Now they go into this game. You have to feel like for Missouri, both of their losses this year have only been by one score. So they've kind of been dealt a bad hand. But then again, they barely beat an Auburn team which was just terrible and did not do well offensively. Meanwhile, A&M has really proven a lot of guys wrong. Minus, I think, the Arkansas game. And I mean, they played close against Auburn too. But I feel like with Prebula out, I like Marcel Reed, and I feel like the rushing attack will have its way. Missouri's going to have to rely on guys like Hardy on the run, which I think they can and can, if they play keep away, can very well have an upset chance. But I'm going to take the Aggies winning a close one. I'll go with the same thing, kind of been the story with Missouri. I'll go with a 27-23 win for A&M.
Yeah, I just don't like this Missouri team with Zollers taking over for Prebula. Prebula was the team that was the reason this offense was moving so well. They still did all right with Zollers, but they still lost that game against Vanderbilt, and I don't think they're going to have a good game against A&M. A&M's defense is really strong. They've been really kind of bottling up offenses for the most part last couple of weeks. And like you said, Marcel Reed, you got Concepcion, you got Le'Veon Moss. There's a ton of talent on that Texas A&M offense. And, you got to talk about that DN for Texas A&M. What's his name? It starts with an S. I can't remember his name, but the guy's like a freak. Like, he's like unguardable right now. I feel like Missouri's going to have to struggle being able to block him. So, I feel like A&M is going to stifle them defensively, and they're going to be able to put up points offensively, conversely. So I'm going to say A&M wins 38-17. Okay, next one. Wake Forest, Virginia. Wake Forest coming off that loss to Florida State where they got smoked. And then Virginia just keeps limping on and winning these games barely in overtime. And I don't know what it is. If Wake Forest is that weak, I think Virginia should win this game easily. But they have been basically putting themselves into positions where they have to barely win these games. I feel like UVA gets over the hump here and puts the nail in the coffin by the beginning of the fourth quarter. So I'm going to say UVA wins by 14 points. I'm going to say 35-17. What do you got?
Yeah, even with the game they won by 10 points against Cal, it was still a close game. I mean, it was within 10 points most of the game, and Cal took the lead a couple of times. So Cardiac Cavs living up to their name. Yeah. I feel like with this one, this is the best chance Virginia's got right now to have an easy kind of win, because I don't think Duke, and obviously with Va Tech, that rivalry, they're going to be, going to go at them easy. So I feel like if you want to kind of have a comfortable win and not give everybody in Virginia a heart attack, this is the best chance to do it. I think, they might pull away at the end. They might, want to play chicken with them and, see if that hospital bill raises up in the hospitals. But I'm going to go with let's do a 31-17 win for the Cavs.
Okay, moving on to, speaking of Cal, Louisville. I mean, this is an important game because Louisville, they have to keep winning here. And, their schedule for, the rest of the year is they've got Clemson, next week, which I don't know what to make of this Clemson team, so who knows. And then after that, you've got SMU and Kentucky. They should easily beat Kentucky, but this game is kind of important because it sets up those next two. And really, if they win these next three, they're basically locked in to an ACC championship spot because they'll beat. Actually, no, they won't. Because even if they win out, all these teams, it's weird because like all these teams like seemingly don't play each other. Like Georgia Tech, like doesn't play Pitt. Pitt doesn't play Louisville, and oh wait, no, sorry. Pitt plays Georgia Tech. I got that mistaken. Louisville doesn't play Pitt. Louisville doesn't play Tech, and then what's the other one? Virginia doesn't play anyone but Louisville. So it's weird. Like all these four teams, like only like two matchups between the four of them, which is kind of terrible that ended up that way. But it is what it is. It's like just what the schedule ended up being. So I don't know. It's weird because like even if Louisville wins out, they're not going to get a shot. But again, you just got to keep winning, and you got to hope for the best and hope that maybe Pitt beats Georgia Tech, so that's at least one of them out, and then maybe UVA loses one here. Because UVA, like we've said all along, UVA only has that one loss, but that one loss is non-conference because of the scheduling they made with NC State. So that game doesn't necessarily matter in the standings for ACC. It doesn't matter. And then, okay, so as far as this game, I'm going to say, because I like Cal's quarterback, I don't even know how to say his name, it's so long, but, he's putting up huge numbers. But I like Miller Moss in this game. I think he'll go off in this one. Cal really hasn't, defensively been able to stop many people, but they will put up points. I think the defense for Louisville is going to have to really withstand them. Cal lost to Va Tech, and Va Tech has fired their coach. So, like, that tells you something right there. And they almost lost to UNC, too. And they lost to Duke pretty badly. So, I don't think this Cal team is going to be able to score a ton. They'll score enough. I'm going to say, like, they score, like, 24. And I'm going to say, like, Louisville scores, like, 31. What do you got?
So with this game, obviously Cal is going to be relying on the pass like they have this season. But notable is that Louisville has the number one defense in the ACC and the number one passing defense in the ACC as well. They're only giving up like 150 yards a game through the air. So that's going to be something that Cal's going to have to try and cope with because Louisville is just not letting them beat them through the air. So I think in this game, Louisville's defense kind of takes control and limits Cal. I think the Cardinals win it. I'm going to go with a 30-14 win for the Louisville Cardinals.
Nice. Okay, moving on to should be a big game, but LSU has fired their coach, so it's not. LSU comes to Tuscaloosa to play Alabama, and, there's zero hype for this game, which is crazy because ever since I can remember, since Saban came back went to LSU or went to Alabama in 2007, this game has always meant something. And it largely to do with the fact that Saban, brought that heat because he was the LSU coach. So there was that, that kind of tension already. But, you had Les Miles, you had Ed Orgeron. They both won titles, both had plenty of victories over Alabama. And then Brian Kelly, who kind of got fired, and now this rivalry this year is kind of weird. It doesn't really mean that much to LSU because their season's basically over, and Alabama still has a lot riding on it. Like, they have one loss, they have everything to play for, chance to get to Atlanta for the SEC championship game, and potentially a playoff spot. LSU really doesn't have much to play for, so will they come out strong? I don't know. I mean, their defense hasn't looked great. It really is not. It's been kind of a paper tiger in those early wins where they were playing bad offenses. Since they started playing good offenses, they've looked weak. And, this LSU offense has kind of struggled. They've really been stuck in first gear, can do some things. They have a lot of offensive talent in the wide receivers, but they haven't really been able to put up huge games with Nussmeier. Conversely, Ty Simpson is looking all world, up there, at least top 5 Heisman candidate as of right now, maybe even top 3 or 2. And he's putting up huge numbers, 1 interception. The defense is doing good enough things in these games to keep them in it. The offense is humming. I like Jeremy Bernard a ton. I think he's probably their best offensive player. Jam Miller is great. Ryan Williams is still very talented, doing things. This team, Alabama, is probably going to smoke them. I'm going to say it's probably going to be like a 28-17 game, maybe even a 35-17 game. What do you got, Ian?
So, obviously doing the homework in this game, since Nick Saban took over Alabama in 2007, LSU has only won in Tuscaloosa 3 times. And the one thing all those 3 years had in common was 2007, 2011, and 2019. All those years, LSU either went or won the national championship. That's not happening this year, and I don't think it's going to change anything this time. I don't see LSU going into Tuscaloosa, and I know there's the whole fired coach maybe gives them a boost and plays better, not having, nothing to lose, but I don't think Alabama is going to lose sight of what's going on. I think they'll take care of business. They'll pick up their, second dead tiger of the year. They'll beat LSU. I'll go with a 35-19 win.
Nice. Okay, next game we have is Navy Notre Dame. I want to hear your thoughts first.
So obviously one of the, traditional annual rivalries here. It's going to be interesting. Notre Dame.
Hold on, repeat that because it was kind of in and out. Oh, you're freezing. Uh-oh. Losing Ian. Hello? Definitely gonna have to edit this. Yeah, you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you.
Cool. Yeah, I'll edit that out, but start from the top again on all that.
Okay. Navy, Notre Dame, one of the, oldest rivalries dating back to, pre-modern college football pretty much. So Navy obviously coming off that loss last week to North Texas. It's going to be interesting to see how Notre Dame, they're on their win streak right now, but they're kind of playing these games close. They pulled away against USC, and then they kind of grinded it out against Boston College. Navy's going to try to play keep away, just straight up. And we know that's what they're going to do with a quarterback like Horvath and the running attack they have. So it's going to be very important for Notre Dame to keep them on their side of the 50. And I think Notre Dame can.
Lost you, Ian.
Check.
Yeah, it's back now. Go ahead.
So it's going to be interesting to see how Notre Dame responds to the positive field position, because that's going to be the key to the game, is how well they can, take advantage of the good field possession. Notre Dame does have one of the best running defenses in the country, so I think they'll be able to get enough stops. I'll take the Irish winning this one. I'll go with let's do a 27-14 win for Notre Dame.
Yeah, and I like this Notre Dame team a lot. I feel like CJ Carr is underrated. He is a freshman, so there's not a ton of buzz about him. But, you got Jeremiah Love and Price, and, they're just a tandem. Like, they're probably the 2 best running backs in the country, and they put up a ton of yardage. And I feel like they're going to do that again. I feel like the Notre Dame offensive line is going to push around the Navy defense, and I feel like they're going to be able to run on them at will. And I think CJ Carr is going to make enough successes in the passing game that they should be able to win this game pretty solidly. I feel like Navy will be able to score on Notre Dame. I'm thinking in like the 24 to 28 point range. And I feel like Notre Dame is probably going to score like 35. So I'm going to say 35-28 for Notre Dame. So Navy, they'll have that loss, but it doesn't hurt them as far as American Conference goes. So, but it will hurt them playoff-wise. So we'll see. Okay, last 2 games we got Florida and Kentucky. This one will be quick. I don't really care, like at this point, like it's like the loss doesn't really do anything. It's like, what does it matter? Like, like it's not the end of the world. The coach is fired. Like, I want to see the offense do well. Like, and I think they trended well last week. I need to see improvement from DJ Lagway if going forward he's going to be the quarterback, and hopefully that continues in this game. Defense. They were really good in that Georgia game. They were getting stops. They kept the game close so that the offense could take advantage, and the offense couldn't take advantage in the fourth quarter. So you need to take advantage in the fourth quarter. Need to score points. Need to put up, give Ball the ball. Run the dang ball. That's what needs to be the strategy. Also, Trey Wilson looked great, so maybe continue that. Keep utilizing him. I don't know if VB3 is back this week. I think the injury report will get released today, so we'll see. But, besides that, I feel like they are a more talented team than Kentucky. Kentucky's kind of struggled all year. Kentucky's really not that good of a team. They have I think 3 wins or something like that.
Yeah, and only one SEC win.
Yeah, and so they're not a good team. So Florida should win this game. They are better than them. I think Florida wins this one 28 to 17. What do you got?
So interesting to note, Florida hasn't won in Lexington since 2019, which was famously when Kyle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just Kyle Trask. I jumped.
Yeah, that was the Kyle Trask game, and I should have screenshotted it. I remember texting my cousin George. I said when Felipe Franks went down, I said either Kyle Trask is going to be the savior of the season, or we're dead. The season's done. And sure enough, magic happened. But since then, goose eggs going to the Bluegrass State. Obviously, didn't help. Last time they went blown out in the 33-14, that was that wasn't even the canary in the cave. That was the freaking bald eagle in the cave with the Napier experiment. But now Kentucky, we don't know what's going on with Stoops as coach. He might be in win out mode to keep his job. They got that win against Auburn, but the joke I made was, we already fired our coach, so you can't even hurt us anymore.
Yeah.
So I feel like, though, Florida's defense is much better, and even though they won 10-3 against Auburn, Florida can score more than 10 points. I feel like they should, knocking on wood, they should score more than 10 points, and I trust the defense getting the stops because I'm not afraid of Kentucky's offense. I agree with you. Just run, have a good run game, get in positive field position. I feel like that's one thing that is not being taken advantage of. I've been saying it all show, but Florida especially, if they can pin Kentucky to 25, 20-yard line and have to punt, take advantage of that field position when you're at the 30, 40-yard line and just have Ball, grind out 4 or 5-yard rush carries. So I feel like in this one, sure, Gators win. Let's do 21-10.
Okay. All right. Last one we got UCLA, Nebraska. UCLA is coming off that pantsing by Indiana. I feel like they can get on track here because Nebraska's injury to Dylan Raiola, and he's out for the year with a fibula fracture. So that means it opens the door for UCLA to kind of shut down Nebraska's offense. And if that's the case, Nico should have a good game because they should have the ball a ton, and they should be in good field position. And if that's the case, I'm expecting like a 28-17 game. And Nebraska may be lucky to even score 17, maybe less than that. So I got UCLA 28-17. I know it's a quick review, but again, with these injuries, like you have an injury with Perbula in Missouri. You have the injury with Alar to Penn State. It kind of changes the whole like complexity of these games, which they'd be a lot more interesting if the starting quarterbacks were there. If they're not there, it really kind of eliminates these teams as any viability. So, I mean, the one guy that came in, Latif, for Nebraska, I mean, he's just like average at best. He's just not that good. And, you know, he may turn out to something, but as of right now, he did not look that good in that game. And, you know, Raiola's only, a sophomore, right? So, like, he still is, like, going to be there at least another year. So, like, that's why they don't have, like, a guy behind him that's really a stud, because they're probably, like, recruiting a guy next year or whatever, or, like, coming in next year. So, like, they're kind of behind the 8 ball here. Didn't expect to lose Raiola. I like UCLA in this one, but your thoughts, Ian, and we'll call it a show.
So with this game, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, the game plan changes with Raiola out, and they're going to have to rely on the running game. The good news is guys like Johnson from Nebraska, Emmett Johnson, have had really good years. I think he just cracked over 1,000 yards.
Yeah,
but they have a good rushing. They definitely have good running backs in the backfield. This is going to be interesting on how well UCLA can defend against the run, but I think it's also because Nebraska is really good against the pass. They're second in the country in passing defense, so UCLA is going to have to kind of spread it out and maybe rely on more draw plays, options, RPOs to really take advantage of Nebraska here. I feel like, man, it's interesting. I'm gonna say defense wins championships, and I'm going to say Nebraska plays keep away. I'm going to go with the Cornhuskers winning. I think the passing defense can throw enough of a monkey wrench into UCLA, and they sneak a win out. I'm going to go with a close 23-20 win for the Cornhuskers. I could easily see this going the other way, though.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I saw what that Nebraska team was without Raiola, and they're not a good team offensively without him. So, like, I get what you're saying. Passing defense will keep them in this game. And there's a chance that could be the reality. But if you're not able to do anything on offense, like, you're going to get exposed. And, like, that's what I feel like is the difference in this game. But you have any more thoughts, and then we're going to call it a show?
No, just, at least college basketball season started.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right. Okay. So that's the show, everyone. You can reach us at haterradio.com for all of our articles. Maybe I'll have something after this week, just something to like put out there to draw traffic to. But reach us at our socials, which are all just type in Hater Radio, comes right up. Ian, what are your socials before we go? Oh, no. Say it again.
At Twitter, it's X at G5 Gibson, and at YouTube and Instagram at G_Gator_G.
Okay, cool. That's the show, y'all. Enjoy these games. We'll talk to you on Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and we'll see you then. Take care.